I'm P.J. Brooks. I'm the Vice President of Outpatient and Youth Services for First Step of Sarasota. And what I'd like to do is I just want to start off by sharing a little bit of the history of what we faced in this community. We can talk about the different drugs that have been out there. When I came into the field 27 years ago, crack cocaine was the big scourge. And we've recently evolved into prescription drugs, and most recently into heroin and fentanyl, with access to prescription drugs being limited. But bottom line is, it really doesn't matter what clothes the drugs wear. We also know that alcohol is always ever present. It's really about what goes on in terms of the person who's making the choice to use, and then once that choice is taken away, if they develop an addictive disorder, what happens. And we can talk about what we need to do with treatment, but some of the challenges that we're really facing are, how do we prevent this from happening in the first place? At the state level, local level, and national level, we've looked at prevention efforts for many, many years. And I would say with limited success. We haven't done a huge job of making changes in the direction of choice of our youth. Because there's things when you commit this by word, verbally saying I quit using, or I'm not going to use, or I commit to being sober. It's how do you demonstrate that? And what we like about this new concept is that our youth can now not only commit to being drug and alcohol free, but they are also demonstrating that through participating in urinalysis testing. It's one thing for an individual, youth especially, to say, oh, I commit to not using, I'm going to stay drug and alcohol free. Those are words. It's behaviors that really demonstrate what the proof is. And with this program, this concept, we're talking about committing and demonstrating that through providing a urinalysis test. And if it's clean, there's your proof. It's actual, tangible proof that that student, that youth, is committing to being drug and alcohol free. So as we look at this, it's like, okay, so what's the big deal? Our society is one. It's a using society. You can't watch a sporting event without seeing a beer commercial of some form or another. And now liquor commercials. States are wrestling with the issue of legalizing marijuana. The whole issue around substance use is an ever-present challenge in the United States. We have the second highest rate of addiction of all the industrialized nations, save for Russia. So to think that we are going to become a teetotaling society is probably it's just not realistic. So what we really are talking about is postponement. When we talk about the realities of where we are in our society, that to expect everybody to be completely drug and alcohol free is probably an unrealistic thought. So then let's talk about what are the alternatives. Okay. Ideally, yes, we'd like our youth to make the decision to stay away from drugs. Just like Nancy Reagan said, just say no. Okay. Okay. Well, what about the rest, which is the majority that aren't going to do that? Let's talk about postponement. Postponement means this. We'd like them to make the decision not to use now. We'd like them to grow and mature before they make that decision. And ideally, if we can get them to make that decision somewhere around 21 or older, their risk of developing an addictive disorder, should they choose to use, is much less than it would be in normal society. Most youth that are at risk of developing an addictive disorder often start making their decision to use early in their teens, mid-teens, 15, 16. And we know, research-wise, that the younger that they start experimenting, the faster the disorder develops. Okay, so inversely, the longer we can get them to make the decision not to, the less likely they are to develop it. A lot of people out there would probably say, well, they should just be making the decision to not use anyway. That's really what they should be doing. Is that realistic for the U.S.? Really? Then okay, at the same time, should we have every other advertiser for every collegiate game, never mind professional game, be a beer company or a liquor company? We can't get away from it. So since we can't, let's try to make it so that the demand reduction happens rather than supply reduction. If you knew that, okay, I'm not going to get this type of cancer if I choose not to do something until I'm 21, even though I'm at risk of developing it, I think the whole world would be going, don't do that until you're 21. Why take the chance? You know, if I can cut the risk exponentially, then do it. So that's really what we're talking about. We're talking about let's get to where we are able to make responsible decisions for when we're making that responsible decision whether or not to experiment. What we're wanting to do is entice and support and do whatever we can to get our youth to make a demonstrated commitment to being sober until they're old enough to make a better decision, because they're just developmentally not in a position to do so. To do that, just to do that isn't enough. Kids need something. They need incentives. They need reasons beyond just that I'm committing to this because it's a good thing to do. You know, this is about, okay, if I do this, what am I going to get? And, you know, and that's okay. That's okay that we're looking at that. And that's why we also have business partners who will, when a youth is committed to being in the program, that they are, the business partners are going to support those kids by giving them discounts, going to give them incentives, percentages off, whatever it may be. So that kid has this, you know, he gets their card, their membership card, presents it to the business, and the business says, you know, here's your 15% off on your food. And beyond that, you know, ultimately, every kid that is in this is not going to be your straight A student. Some of these kids are going to be your average students who are just doing what they can to get by. And at graduation, we honor them and recognize them with cords. You know, you're going to have kids who are going to have their honors cords. You're going to have kids with their golden gowns because they're in National Honor Society. And then you're going to have that average kid that otherwise would be walking down the aisle to collect their diploma with nothing. Except for now, this kid may have that cord from the program and be able to say, you know, I committed to being drug-free, and here I am. What's in it for the business, as we say? You know, yes, it's good for them to be committed to supporting the concept of keeping kids drug and alcohol free, but what's in it for them? Because they're, you know, all the truth be told, they've got to have some reason to make it economically viable for them. Well, those kids are going to select to go to their businesses on a regular basis. And don't forget, those kids have parents that like the idea that their kids are committing to being drug and alcohol free. And with that placard on their window, those parents whose kids are members are also going to go to those businesses and partake in whatever they're providing. And, you know, businesses also are looking for employees, and a lot of businesses hire youth. And guess what? If you have a kid who shows up with a card, membership card, says he's a member of Drug-Free Youth, you know what? I might be more apt to hire that kid over a kid who isn't, because I have a little bit more belief that that kid is probably going to be a bit more responsible and demonstrating that, so that there's incentive behind this. And then if you take it to scale, as what's happened, say, in Northport, which is where it started. Northport, 2 weeks ago, enrolled their 3,000th youth member in the program, and they have 1,600 active members down in Northport that are middle and high school age students. We move in that direction and can take this to scale and getting, think about if, for example, at this school, at Sarasota High School, there are, you got 1,800 youth. You get 900 members. You get half the school to participate. That's a lot of buying power just in this area, okay? Take it to all the schools, middle schools and the like, you get a quarter of them. That's huge buying power that will come into your business and recognize, and what you're doing is you're just recognizing them for what they're doing, and you're getting more traffic coming in your door, and it's a win-win for everybody. Here's how you can help us as a business. You can, as you're approached, or even if you're not approached, we invite you to reach out to us, and you can find our information on the website that that's included with what you're seeing. You can agree to provide a discount to students for your services or products, and especially food. But even beyond that, you may have an insurance business that maybe you have the ability to offer a family discount, because, you know, like we have safe drivers for students who are good students. Wouldn't it be nice to have a safe driver who's drug-free? You know, what a thing to be able to support. and and applying to be with us and joining as a member so that we can advertise. And remember, businesses are going to be advertised as to who are and what their discounts that they're offering us. Supporting events that we have for the youth by offering, say, if we have an event, providing pizzas or whatever it may be for them. And think as big as possible, because the bigger you think, the bigger the kids are going to be involved. And this is what you get. You get a much more dedicated foot traffic coming your way from a population that's committed to being sober and committing to making a decision to be responsible about what's going on in their world. You're demonstrating support for prevention of what is 1 out of 10 individuals end up with an addictive disorder. And if we can avoid an individual finding out if they have the disease by help supporting them to not activate it by using, we are making a major difference in the lives of our youth. And I've been here for my entire life, and I know the businesses that I've been involved with, and I can tell you the ones that have been around since I was a kid, many of them I still go to. Many of the restaurants I still participate in, because you know why? Because I'm loyal to them. And people like being loyal to those that you feel like they're honored by being a participant. This is a unique opportunity. This is different than what we've seen before in traditional prevention. More often than not, it's filling out a piece of paper and it's in words. The fact that this one says, you know what, I'm going to commit to being drug-free, and I'm going to demonstrate it through a urinalysis test. And with that, I have businesses that are going to give me that reward, immediate reward of, here's your discounts that you will participate in, and you've got these things available to you. It's such a simple, elegant concept that it's such a win-win. And if we can get a kid, it doesn't matter what drugs are going on out there. If they're not using them, they don't find out if they have an issue. It's not about what's legal or illegal. Alcohol's been legal forever. Kills 4 times more people than any of the other drugs combined. And we know what happened with the legal prescription drugs that were being prescribed over the last 5, 6, 7 years. They were just as legal as anything else. Urinalysis cups, testing, and all of that costs money. And there's only so far that you can go with what you can pinch together here or splice together there. And to really make this meaningful and to operationalize it, you need to be able to put the supplies in to take it where it needs to be. You need to have the people to go and deal with the testing that needs to be done. Volunteerism works, but you got to have the money to be able to make it operationalized. Just to give you an example, if you had half the school, 900 kids, participating, you want them to be drug tested at enrollment and then 3 times additionally during the year, okay? So that's a total of 4 tests each. You do the math. You're looking at, 3,600 tests in a year's time. And it takes about an hour and a half to get through, almost 2 hours to get through 100 kids at any given time. That's a lot of time, but it's worthwhile given what the program offers. So, donations, cash, money, and remember, this is through a nonprofit, so we'd be able to deal with it as a tax write-off. Once the form is received, we will reach out to you and communicate with you about how you want to be a partner with us, whether it be through a discount or maybe through a donation. We'll go over the specific benefits of you being a partner with the program. As a 501c3 tax-exempt organization, you would be able to benefit from the standard write-off from being a participant if you're deciding to donate to the program. If you're a corporate donor and you would like to work with us, once you reach out to us, I will work with you directly to establish what needs to be done to give you the appropriate levels of exemption that you need, and be happy to work with you. And for you folks that would like to volunteer, understand first and foremost, Our volunteers go through a level 2 background screening. Okay, we don't just we don't put our kids at risk with our volunteers. Though we want volunteers, we want safe volunteers. So understand that first and foremost. Okay, any of the volunteers that work with the kids will have a background screening completed. But once you volunteer, there's a number of things that you can help out with, whether it be recruiting businesses, helping out at testing events. You know, when we have the program events for the kids, not just testing, but also events that we may have in the community or at the school, you know, you can help out with those. And, you know, really talking it up, talking to other businesses, because, you know what, you know who you like to work with, what businesses you like to partake in. And if your kids do too, why not recruit them? You know, let them know, hey, you know, let me tell you about this program. You can be a spokesperson for this project as well. Volunteerism in the program can take many shapes. And it can be as little or as much as you're able to give. You know, we don't want to turn anybody away. You may only be able to help out with 1 or 2 events during a year. You may be able to provide more. And we want to honor and support those that are willing to give whatever they can. You know, that mom who donates $10 to help cancer versus that person who can give $100,000. I bet you they're both just as heartfelt. The mom's giving what she can. So you know what? We'll take what we can. You know, we recognize that, and a thank you that would go out to you is immeasurable, because what you're doing is you're stepping in to help out with something that is unique, is different, and also has the potential for saving lives and preventing things from happening to our youth.